Episode 347, Report from the Room, The Business of AI.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
On Friday, the University of Galway hosted its 4th annual business summit. The theme, the business of AI. And I was in the room, so today I'm bringing the room to you. You're very welcome back to AI6 and in today's special long listen, which is a solo one, I wanted to bring my takeaways from the university's business summit dedicated to artificial intelligence. I was there with my daughter Sophie, who lectures in tax, finance and accounting at the J.E. Cairns School of Business and Economics. And sitting in that room with her brought me back 25 years because, my friends, 25 years ago, in fact, 29 years ago, I arrived at that university as a 19-year-old with an almost 2-year-old baby in tow. We went on an adventure. We took a bus and all our worldly belongings and we left my home county of Donegal to go to Galway to start a new life, to get an education. And as fate would have it, the lecture halls that I took Sophie to all those years ago, she's now back in them, but she's at the front as a lecturer. So that was a lovely moment that I thought would tee us up for this podcast episode. The summit was opened by University President Professor David Byrne, who set the tone immediately. AI, he said, is rapidly reshaping how organisations make decisions. Not will reshape, but is reshaping in the moment. The university's new strategy has a transformative data and AI research pillar built into it, the president told us. And he said that they are intending to lead and not follow. Professor Karina Yan, Dean of the J.E. Cairns School of Business, was equally direct. AI is no longer experimental, it's operational, she said. And the defining leadership challenges of the AI age are trust, governance, ethics, and leadership itself. I wholeheartedly agree. So that framing, AI is operational, not experimental, kind of was a core theme right throughout the day. So let me bring you those takeaways. Takeaway 1. This came from a venture capitalist on stage, and he said, you are no longer an expert in your own domain if you have not applied AI to that expertise. And whatever profession you're in, whether it's accounting, marketing, software engineering, business consulting, and you've not yet applied AI inside your own area of expertise, you'll want to start. And actually, many of the questions from the audience in the room sounded a little bit like this. What's the first step? Where do we start? And then another speaker spoke about the shift from processor to analyst to architect. John Clancy from Galway said that the skills that we need right now are absolutely evolving. AI does the processing, not the human anymore. And increasingly, it's doing your analysis. But our value as the human, well, we are irreplaceable if we combine our domain expertise with the knowledge of artificial intelligence and how it applies. And we are the architect, the one who asks the right questions, designs the systems, makes a call on the output, and of course, is ultimately the human in the loop that signs off all our collaborative work with AI. And then another speaker brought us a phrase which was taste, knowing which AI output is worth choosing and why. And that's not a skill that we're going to automate very soon. The second takeaway, low-cost, high-capability tools available to all of us right now. But you've got to start with one use case. The conversation in the room was very practical and on point right throughout the breaks. I met up with some members of Network Galway, and I'm a member of that branch too. and we were all discussing our use cases, what tools we're using, but ultimately what problems we are solving. And agentic AI was a big theme at the summit. AI that doesn't just answer questions, but takes actions, runs workflows, makes decisions inside a defined boundary. And that's no longer the territory of large enterprise. It can be the capability of SMEs. The tools exist, the cost is accessible, but the barrier is mindset and ultimately just getting started. Majella Mungovan, VP of Financial Operations at Meta, spoke about a 10-year automation journey within the company. And she made the point that applies to every organization that attended that summit. You have to start somewhere. Map one process, identify one problem, build one use case, and of course, it's not the other way around. And that sequencing matters enormously. And it brings me back to something I teach in my own AI diploma. Start with the organization or business problem, not the technology. Technology in search of a problem is how you waste time and money. And actually, I was at an event last week and one of the guest speakers said, defining the problem and defining the right problem is so important when it comes to digital transformation. So a clearly defined problem in search of the right tool, that is how you build something that works. And there was a meta moment that I want to include in today's episode. I asked a question and I wanted to know if Meta were fully committed to complying with the EU AI Act, and many of those regulations come into force in August of 2026, especially in high-risk areas. And Majella Mungovan, who was representing Meta, answered the question and she said, we are preparing our EU AI Act readiness and we are committed to the EU AI Act. I guess I was a little bit disappointed. I would have thought that she would have been more committed, and I thought it was a yes or no answer. I mean, I'm building an AI model and I'm going to comply with the EU AI Act, and I would hate to see the cost opportunity being borne out where Meta takes a risk, doesn't fully comply, but instead takes the hit off the fines. This conversation in the same couple of days, that Meta was found guilty of designing algorithms that harm children and teenagers. And the contradiction there is that we were sitting in an institution whose tagline is for the public good. And it just reminded me, and I want to remind all of you, that all of us getting involved and being early adopters in artificial intelligence must strive for public good at all times. And I expect it of Meta as well. So let's go on to takeaway number 3. Don't wait for regulation. I think that comment followed my question, if I'm entirely honest. And the theme here is build your own ethical AI standards now. Don't wait for the regulation. And Nicola Flannery from Deloitte was clear on this. She said the EU AI Act is designed to regulate the impact of technology on society, but the organisations that will lead in the AI age are not the ones waiting for a regulator to define their standards. They are the ones building their own ethical frameworks into what they are designing and building right now. And this is something I feel strongly about as I build my own AI advisory platform for government communications teams. So, takeaway number 4, most of the world has not started with enterprise AI. And that was a message from John Clancy. He says, don't feel behind, just get started. And I think that liberated quite a number of people in the room. By virtue of them being there, they are curious about AI and they have meaningful intentions also. He told us that 85% of people in the world are not yet using AI in any meaningful capacity. So if you've been sitting on the sidelines because you feel like everyone else is already there, they're not. The runway is long. The leaders will be the ones who start now, learn fast, and iterate, not the ones who waited for the perfect conditions. And I totally concur with that sentiment. And I speak to organizations every week who feel paralyzed by the speed of change. And my message is always the same. You don't need to have it all figured out. You need to take one step. You know everything about your business or your organization. That's the important thing. The technology is an application that we layer on top of that to help solve problems, build capacity, and even reimagine what our businesses and organizations are. And then takeaway number 5, start with the problem, the right problem, map the process, then find your AI use case. Because that one move will break the pattern of how most organizations approach AI. They pick the tool first. They ask, should we use Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude? What model should we be on? But that's not the right starting point. The right starting point is, what's the problem we need to solve? What's the process that slows us down, that's expensive, that's prone to errors, or that is a bottleneck in getting real work done? Map that process fully, then and only then bring in the AI tools and the technology to address it. And this is the architecture of good AI adoption. And this is what separates the organizations that are building something sustainable that adds real value compared to those just being busy and looking at these AI models as sophisticated search engines. And I want to say that huge thanks to the team at the Cairns Business School and also to the University of Galway and all the staff for putting this event together. It was free and they had a packed auditorium and there was a really great energy in the room. But Sophie also asked a question, and as a lecturer, she was concerned about her students and what jobs are they going to find. And the jobs, she was told, are the new jobs created by AI, but they still need the really important softer skills of critical thinking, emotional intelligence, communication, and negotiation. So it was a wonderful day at the University of Galway. I hope you enjoyed my takeaways. And if you've got any to add, be sure to tag me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you on the next episode.